Greetings, this is Sean, and today I'm going to be finishing up my large wheel lathe that I started last week, and I'm going to be starting off in the shop cutting out the large wheel here on my scroll saw. The first part I'm going to be cutting out there in the center is the hub for the wheel, and then I'll cut the outside part of it. And I didn't record it, but after I get done cutting these out, the edges are kind of rough, and so I ended up going into my drill press back there, and I've got an attachment that I can sand it down with that I use to make it round again. So, but you won't see that. So anyway, here I am just cutting this part out, and that is 1/4 inch birch plywood is what that is. The center hub and the hub there in the center is I think I made it 3/4 of an inch in diameter, might be an inch in diameter, and the actual wheel itself is 4 inches in diameter, and it's a 1/4 inch wide and a 1/4 inch thick, of course. And I forgot to release the tension on my arm before doing that. That's why it snapped up so quickly. Oops. Anyway, to the desk. First thing I'm going to be doing is, well, these are the going to be the spokes. I'm just using some toothpicks. The original plan was called for 10 of them, but it was easier for me to do 8, so I'm only going to do 8 spokes instead of the 10. And anyway, what these are here is going to make the stand for the wheel to stand on, to operate on. And basically, I'm just going to chisel out those holes and put them together. Real easy, real simple. I've already got one cut because I was just debating on which way I wanted to do it, and I ended up using my chisels, of course. And here I am just copying the other one, the previous one. Basically, I'm just cutting down to that line there, and then I'll just cut it off. Real simple. And remember, don't cut towards you, cut away from you. Make sure that you're being safe when using wood, chisels and knives and things like that. Always cut away from yourself. And here comes another major oopsie that I have a tendency to do with lately. And this is very similar to one that I did last week. You'll see it here in a minute. I'll point it out. Watch right there. I pushed a little bit too hard and cracked it, but it's alright. It did go all the way through, but I just end up super gluing it back together. You'll see here in a minute, but you can see it is quite a big crack. Second one went a lot easier. I didn't push quite as hard, and I end up sharpening my knife, which is what caused that. A dull knife will cause that kind of a crack, because I'm forcing it to cut instead of making it easier to cut. So always keep your knives sharp. They cut a lot better. And basically I just glue those two pieces together, and I don't do it till later on, but I actually end up making some braces that hold that, which I'll show later on. Some 45-degree braces that hold those up better. Anyway, here I'm just super gluing that back on, and again, I'm not going to be finishing these. I'll finish them once I get them into the actual building. Now, this was the trickiest part. This was trying to find the center of this circle, and that little device you see me using, I actually have two of them. Those are center finders, and basically it's a 90-degree angle with a 45-degree angle coming out of it. And where the two meet in the middle is the middle of the circle. And I made these out of mat board that I made on my Cricut, so it was really accurate. And I use these also for pen turning to find the center of the block when I'm making pens as well, to be able to drill a hole down the center of it for the pen equipment to go in. Anyway, basically where that line there and that line, this line here that's coming up meet, that's the center of the circle. So that's where I need to position the hub. Now, I know it seems kind of arbitrary that, how am I going to do that? You'll see here in a minute. I'm eyeballing this for right now. And I'm making marks on the outside so I know, where I was making my marks. And then what I'll do is, just to be even more accurate, is I'll move that one to a third position and make another line in the center, which you'll see. And those are, like I say, basically arbitrary points, but it's their reference marks for me later on, and you'll see how it comes into play. So basically I just take that the hub and I line up where those two meet. Now right here it's not met, they haven't met yet. It's not completely centered, which you'll see when I'll move the guide around again, so it's easier for me to see it. My head would get out of the way. So now I take my pencil and I make a mark on the guide itself, so I know where the center is, and then I make a mark at the edge of it, so I know where the edge of the circle is at, the inside edge. And what I was originally going to do was make holes in the hub and in the wheel to stick the toothpicks into, but it ended up, see, those are the marks I was going to make them, but when I tried to drill into that plywood, it started to break. So I decided not to do it that way, and I end up having to recut all of the toothpicks to where they're just on the outside edges instead of going into the wood. Excuse me. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm making lines across the face of the hub so I know where to line up my toothpicks, basically making a pie out of it. And then I bring those lines down the edges, and that's where I'm going to glue the toothpicks. And actually what I'm doing here is marking it so that I know where to drill the holes. But like I said before, it splits the wood, so I end up not doing that. And of course my Dremel tool was broken, so I had to use this, and this is where I decided to stop right after here. You don't get to see the actual split, but yeah, well, you kind of did. Anyway, so now I'm debating, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I'll just glue it to the outside. So now what I'm going to do is I'm trying to find some way of putting the hub elevated to where the toothpicks are going to sit in the center of the hub. And so I found this piece. It's a 1/16 inch piece with a hole that I've drilled out for, actually that's from the clock that I cut the clock out of, my grandfather clock. So what I'm doing is I'm marking the 8 points on that circle, or the 4 points, and then so now I have to just take away that extra distance, and I just made them a little bit shorter. You'll see. Now I'm cutting all of the toothpicks. And believe it or not, I actually saved those points for other uses. They may come in handy someday. Okay, now I'm just getting my glue, and I'm going to dip the toothpick in and just glue it along the marks. And I've got another piece of wood that I'm sitting under so it'll stay level. I just need to let that dry for a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'll put the circle over it after it's dry. This is just checking to see if they were all even. And so now that it's dried, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the circle and line it up, and I'll make marks on the toothpicks to where to cut them around the outside of the, so that they'll fit on the inside of the circle. Now I thought about trying to drill holes in there, and I was just basically making marks as to where they were going to go, and thought, no, I'm not even going to bother drilling. I don't know what I was thinking, actually. So here I am just marking where they line up on the inside of the circle wheel, and then I'm just going to cut those toothpicks to fit, which I cut them all a little bit shy of the mark, just to make sure I wasn't going too far, and then I'll end up adjusting each one as they go. Cutting off a little bit here and a little bit there just to make it fit. Trying to keep the same ones in the same spots. And there we have a wheel. Now it's just a matter of you decided to use super glue because it's a little bit stronger than the white glue, in my opinion anyway, for this type of thing. It spins. It was a little bit wobbly, not too bad. I was happy with it. So anyway, now it's just a matter of gluing the stand together. Which the holes were just a little bit bigger than the posts going into them, but that's okay. They glue together well. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill holes. I've got a piece of, I will be using a piece of 1/8 inch copper, which you can see there just to the right of where I'm working. And it fits very snugly into the hole that's drilled in the center of the wheel hub. So I'm making these holes a little bit bigger. I think I made them 5/64 of an inch, or just slightly bigger, so that they'd rotate easily on the stand, but they'd fit snugly in the wheel hub. And so now I'm just using my pencil lead to line up the hole for the next one, so that I can make a mark, so I know where to drill it, so they're level. And here I am bending the copper into a crank handle. Wish I'd moved the wheel out of the way when I was doing this, but sorry. Real simple handle. Just like that. See, a little bit wobbly, but that's all right. And I also end up putting a brace in between the two stands, another 1/4 inch piece that goes in between, just to give it some extra room and to give it a little bit wider of a base to help stabilize it and whatnot. So anyway, here I am putting it all together. Those are the 4 angle braces that I'm going to be gluing on. And probably when I actually set it in place and start weathering it and staining it and that type of thing, and putting it in the building, I may add some small like nails or something like that into the wood, just to make it look like it's been held together with some nails, just to make it look stronger. And it's a little bit crooked, but that's all right. That was the one that was broken too. At least they're both crooked at the same angle, so they work. It works. So here I am putting it together, making sure that it works. Which it does. Thank goodness. And so now I'm just adding a 1/4 inch piece of dowel in between, like I said before. I'm just going to clamp that together while it dries. And here it is completed. And like I said, I didn't show the groove, but it'll work better when it's actually in place. So anyway, hope you like this. Let me know what you think in the comments, and of course, have a better day, as I always say. Oops.